This week, I'm going to share with you guys all about our pastured poultry operation. So we raise meat chickens out on pasture throughout the summer months, and we raise them in these little chicken tractors so you can really see where all the chickens have been every year because of how much natural fertilizer they put down on the ground. So not only are these chickens profitable, but they're also really good for our land and soil. And I just want to share more with you guys all about this side of our farm. We have been raising meat chickens for 4 years now, and though there are certainly some challenges and things that we really had to learn the hard way along the way, we are still raising them, and this summer we've got 5 chicken tractors. So we started out with just 2 chicken tractors and slowly increased that over the last 4 years. Our goal is to raise 375 chickens per round and do 2 to 3 rounds of that every summer. So we do about 75 chickens in each of these tractors, and they are out on pasture for about 5 weeks before they're ready to go in for harvest. So that is what we're doing here this evening. We're getting them all loaded up to take to the local processor. We learned all about raising pastured poultry when we went and toured a regenerative farm for a conference in Virginia. That farm is Pally-Face Farms, so a lot of you guys have probably heard of him. It's Joel Salatin and his farm, and they're doing so many cool things on that farm. And fortunately, when we first started all of this, we went there right away for a week-long conference where we just learned all about rotational grazing and then incorporating other livestock onto the farm. And meat chickens were one of those things that we learned about and decided when we got home we were going to build the chicken tractors just like they have down there and start raising them on our own. When we started offering chicken at the farmers market, our customers were very supportive, so we figured out that this is something that we could easily scale on our land base, which is really important to have some scalable things on a small farm, so that way we can focus on making a profit. So the evening before taking them to processing, we get them all loaded up into crates and then load it into our stock trailer so that way we can leave first thing in the morning to get the chickens to the processor. We try to do this as late in the evening as possible, and then my husband will literally sleep for a couple hours and then wake up at like 3 a.m. and bring them to the processor so that way he can get them there early in the morning and the chickens are nice and cool during transit. Running a small business can be challenging when you have so many different administrative tasks to take care of on top of your daily workload. And I know for me, streamlining as much as I can on the administrative side allows me to focus on what I actually want to do with my small business. This is why I want to take a minute to tell you guys about Homebase, who is the sponsor of this week's video. Homebase is an all-in-one app for hourly teams so that you can streamline things like scheduling, time clock, timesheets, payroll, HR, and team communications all in one place. Homebase is trusted by over 150,000 other small businesses, and it was designed for businesses that are running on hourly workers, so businesses like restaurants, cafes, retail shops, salons, repair services, veterinarian clinics, and more. Homebase was built from the ground up for businesses with hourly teams. Managers save on average 20 plus hours a month using Homebase, and your team will love it too. Employees can see their schedules, swap shifts, clock in, and message the team all from their phone. Homebase is free to start, so you can download the app with no credit card entry to see how it'll work for you and your small business. If you think Homebase could be a good fit for you and your small business, be sure to check out the link in my description or the QR code on the screen to learn more. Thank you so much to Homebase for sponsoring this week's video. At the end of every batch, it's so rewarding to take them to the processor and see their final weights and how well we did raising them, but also just looking at the pastures, you can always see exactly where the chicken tractors were, because the grass is so much greener and thicker because of all the natural fertilizer that the chickens have laid down. So this batch is going to the processor. I will meet my husband when he gets home and we will inventory it all and put it into the freezer so that way we can sell it at the farmer's market this summer. And all the while, we have one batch on pasture. We have another batch in our brooder trailer that are going to be ready to go out to pasture very soon. We try to keep the time in our brooder trailer very short because they quickly get very crowded in here. These Cornish cross chickens grow so fast, so it's really important to be set up and ready. That way, as soon as they're big enough to get outside, we can get them out. So actually, later on in this video, I'm going to show you guys moving them out of the brooder trailer. Today I just set up their automatic waterers and then I filled their feeders, and they should be good in here for another day. The biggest thing with chicks at this stage is just keeping them at a consistent 90 degrees while they grow big enough to go outside on pasture. My husband spends an entire day taking the chickens to processing. So he wakes up very early, as I said, takes them up there, and then he waits for the chicken to be done. And then he brings it all home in deep freezers on the back of our stock trailer that we run with a generator. And then that way the chicken stays completely chilled. And when he gets home, we quickly inventory it all and get it frozen in our big walk-in freezer. So now that the chicken is all inventoried and frozen solid, I'm going ahead and getting loaded for the farmer's market this weekend. So we have a big chicken restock, and so many of our customers have been looking for our pasture raised chicken and asking when it will be back in stock. Because we only raise chicken during the summer months, we always have a little bit of a low in inventory in the early spring until our first batch is ready. So the customers at the market this weekend are going to be so excited to finally have this pasture raised chicken back in stock from our farm. Raising chicken out on pasture like this is a very labor-intensive job. It's an everyday chore of moving the chickens forward, making sure that they have fresh grass, water, feed. So it's a very hands-on way to raise chickens, but the customers truly value that and are willing to pay more at the farmer's market for chicken that was raised humanely like this. I believe the chicken's also healthier and more nutrient dense because they were raised out on healthy soil in the fresh air. So not only do I love having this to offer for sale at the farmer's market, I love just having it for myself as well. One of the first things that I did when we got chickens was get out a package of chicken backs to restock on some homemade broth. I always use the backs to make the broth, and I just put it in the Instant Pot and let it go for 24 hours. I don't even worry about pulling that meat back off of it because I found that the longer you just let it go, it produces a really rich flavored broth, and it's just such a simple process to put them in the slow cooker and just let it go for that long. I always strain it off into my jars, and then I'll actually just put these jars, once they completely cool, into the freezer and just have a stock of homemade broth on hand. I actually kept a batch in the Instant Pot going pretty much this whole week, and now I have like 10 jars of chicken broth in my freezer that I can pull out and easily incorporate into meals. I also got out a package of chicken breast to try, and I decided to chop up some of the root vegetables from our garden, do a marinade on the chicken, and then just throw it all together for an easy sheet pan dinner this evening. And as I go about prepping this meal, I'm going to share with you guys more of the ins and outs of our pastured poultry business. So I'm going to talk about the challenges and then share some real numbers on how we're keeping this a profitable part of our business. I think it is important to address the challenges right off the bat because raising chickens like this isn't all that easy. The breed that we use are Cornish cross. So these are the chickens that have literally been bred to get big and fat while sitting in a factory to produce the biggest chicken. Now, there are different breeds of chickens for meat. One of them are called like Freedom Rangers, and you'll find that most homesteaders are using that type of chicken on pasture. But the reason we do not is because they produce a very different kind of meat that our customers aren't used to. So because we're raising these chickens for resale, we decided that the classic white broiler like this is what our customers really want. Now, if we were just doing this on a homestead personal level, I probably would use the Freedom Rangers. They're more of a heritage breed. They do more pecking around on pasture, but you're just not going to get that big, broaded chicken like the white meat breast that people are used to seeing at the grocery store. And this is actually something that we learned by reading Joel Salatin's book, Pasture, Poultry, Profits. And he always says, don't train your customers to something new, give them what they want. These birds are very demanding as far as feed and water goes, and they're very weather sensitive. So you have to make sure that you don't miss any days taking care of them, or you could lose a lot of birds very quickly. It is so important that you get out there at the same time every day. On hot days, we water them multiple times throughout the day. So it's not just you quickly do your chores and walk away from them. You have to really cater to these birds while they're out on pasture. But despite all the challenges, there is pretty good profit to be made when you're raising pastured chickens because of how easy they are to scale. So we can do quite a bit of them at one time. And also we can charge pretty good money for these, especially the chicken breasts. Big chicken breasts, just like this one I'm cooking here, sell so good at the farmer's market. I actually get $13.50 a pound. So dividing them up into cuts and being able to sell the breast, and then the thighs are another big seller separately, really helps make more profit on them. And our customers that are willing to pay those higher prices truly understand that this is not an easy way to raise chickens. They ask me how it is and know that it takes a lot of time to go out there and care for these chickens every day. They also just really value how they were raised out on pasture and understand that chicken raised on pasture like this is much more nutrient dense because they were raised on healthy soils and in fresh air. I actually had someone come to the farmer's market one time and buy a bunch of chicken, and he said him and his wife tried raising broiler chickens in their backyard and they will never do it again. They're like, you are not charging enough for this, of how hard it was to raise. Now, I don't know if chickens are quite that hard to raise. They might have just had a really bad experience or a bad batch, but I did appreciate that because he truly valued what we were doing. And when you're a small farm to table business like this, it is important to find a customer base that values that extra work that you're putting into all your products. We really do enjoy eating all of our pasture-raised chicken and knowing that our freezer is stocked with good chicken like this. But I also just enjoy going to the farmer's market every Saturday and having it to offer to my customers. So the farmer's market is the biggest way that we sell our pasture-raised chicken. It's not like the beef where we do a lot of bulk portions on the side. We just have it all at the market every weekend, and we keep that inventory during the summer months. So raising it is just a part of it. You also have to make sure that you find a market or a way that you're able to easily sell all of that product. Now the chickens that were in the brooder are big enough to go out to pasture, so we will go ahead, get them out on pasture for about 5 weeks, and then in the middle of July, they will be ready for harvest. So we will be able to restock all of our freezers and keep our inventory flowing. Over the years of raising chickens like this, we've also learned how to do our cut orders. We get about 100 whole chickens made out of a group this size, and then the rest we do as cut up pieces. We figure all of our profits off of what we get per a whole bird. So we charge $6.25 a pound on a whole bird, and generally we get about a 4-pound chicken in the end. Sometimes they're a little bit smaller, 3.5 pounds. Sometimes they get up to 5.5 pounds. We kind of found that a 4-pound chicken is really the goal. That's what people want. And it seems like those chickens just do better. When they start to get a lot bigger, they will start dying for just the most minute reasons. If it just gets a little hot, if it just rains a little bit. So keeping them from getting too big certainly helps keep them healthier. Now, all of this to say, challenges and work that goes into it, I still think having pastured chickens on the farm is worth it. We have seen so many benefits to our soil where these chicken tractors have gone year to year, and it does help the profitability side of the farm because chickens are low overhead and they're a quick turnaround. So it doesn't take a whole lot of money to get started with them, and you can have a group ready to sell in 7 weeks. Whereas the beef is a lot of overhead to get going, and it takes over 2 years to have a product to sell. So if you're a small farm starting out looking for a way to make a profit, I would recommend looking into raising pastured chicken. There is a lot to learn, but fortunately there are a lot of really good resources out there. A lot of it is videos I've seen here on YouTube, some books that we read, and we even went through conferences and places that you can go to like talk to other people and really learn about it. But I think the biggest way to learn, and that's with everything, but especially with chickens like this, is just start raising them. My number one recommendation before you get your first batch though is to be totally set up and ready. So have all of your infrastructure in place, know where you're gonna put the chicken tractors, have a processing date. If you're not gonna process them yourselves, have a processing date booked for them. Because chickens like this are so time sensitive, they can only be in the brooder for so long. Then they need to get out on pasture, so you want to make sure your pasture's ready, your chicken tractor's ready. They are so quick to be ready for processing, and you cannot delay them a week. When they're ready, they need to go. So you need to have all of that in place before you get your first batch. Thank you guys so much for watching this week, and I hope you found this helpful or at least interesting. See you next week.